It just depends what people are comfortable with.
Thank you.
But hello. Sometimes there's going to be a bear in the cave. I mean, come on.
That's my assumption. I didn't know what was the expectation.
Welcome back to Making It Awkward. I'm Jessica Wilson, and as you might be able to tell, today's episode is full of adult content. It's the sex ed we didn't get in high school, and for me, the nuance that I couldn't find in a Google search. We also discuss what's happening to sex education today. Of note, some pronatalists want sex education to be more comprehensive and include how to make babies, because apparently sex ed today doesn't do that. I'll come back with more on that in a future episode. I came to these topics because, in accordance with his inability to believe in science, RFK Jr. has denied that HIV causes AIDS and instead has said that it's environmental, a theme for him. Instead, he believes the party drug poppers is one cause of AIDS. Poppers have questionable legality, and in March, the FDA raided Double Scorpio, a poppers manufacturer, and people became afraid that poppers would disappear from shelves, that additional raids would follow, and there would be an outright ban. But since then, the FDA has continued to cut its staff and decrease food safety. So who knows what will actually happen. Through all of the talk about poppers, I didn't have a full understanding of the party drug. The way I've heard them discussed on podcasts always leaves me with questions. I knew that Blake Flaugher was the one who could give me these answers. You were introduced to Blake in the follow-up episode about soda taxes, titled Cracked Cheetos and Cigarettes. He was happy to talk to me about poppers, and I used the opportunity to ask him about the primary association with poppers, butt sex. I will say that butt stuff is so stigmatized that I didn't even have some of the language to ask the questions, and you'll hear Blake broadening my vocabulary today. After talking to Blake, a friend asked me if I got all my questions answered, and I had to reflect on the fact that I didn't. In my own hesitancy to ask about butt stuff, I stopped asking clarifying questions. I had no shame in asking my friends, but I did get nervous that listeners would think I was obsessed. I got afraid of being awkward. I then followed up with a question via text, and Blake was kind enough to answer me in a voice memo. That will be the end. Blake also answers the listener's question about asexuality and another about fascism. We had this conversation on the patio at a brewery, and it was a true test of our ability to make things awkward. No children were around us while we recorded this conversation, but you'll notice we had some folks ask if they could sit next to us. And with that, here's Blake.
Blake, welcome back to the show.
Hi, I'm so excited to talk to you.
Say the bio that you want to say.
So my name is Blake Flaugher. I use he, him pronouns, and I have spent the last 15 years as a public health professional, primarily focusing on sexual health and queer and trans health and HIV prevention and support.
I have been wanting to talk to you about sex for a decade.
Yes.
So I'm very excited. Have we known each other for a decade?
You know what? 2017, probably March of 2017.
It's like 8 years.
Yeah, we're going on a decade.
Yes. So we are at, well, maybe we won't say, because we won't be hunted
Right.
down. We are at a different brewery this time and chatting about sex just before we got started.
Yeah, we got an alert and we were like, oh, what is this? New York Times, a couple hours ago, nearly half of the medical grants scrapped by President Trump, about $800 million worth, focused on LGBTQ health, a Times review found. So how relevant to what we're talking about now? Just, yeah, scary times for everyone. And I'm sure you also saw there is a proposal, I actually don't know if this came down yet, to eliminate LGBTQ health initiative funding through the Trevor Project for the 988 crisis line.
Yes.
So yeah, so let's take suicide prevention support funding away from the community that has the highest suicide rate.
Right.
What evil assholes.
Right. So what we're asking for is the death of queer and trans people.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it, I'll say it again. The end goal is dead queers.
Yeah.
There's no other reason. Yeah.
No. The eugenics of it all. The eugenics in
Yeah.
this, yes. And just like openness about who people want to live and who people in this administration don't.
Yes.
Now we'll talk about sex. Okay. Poppers 101.
Oh, God.
Help me out.
Yeah.
They're vasodilators.
Yep.
But walk me from beginning to end. Like I say, I want poppers. Where do I get them?
Oh, you can go to any, quote, adult store.
Okay.
Really any sex toy store. I don't really think there's... Actually, they are sold online. It really depends on, I think, like, state regulations, the country, like, that kind of thing. But, yeah, they're usually sold... First of all, you will never see, like, poppers. It will never say poppers. It'll say, like, video head cleaner. You know, things like that. Because
Video head?
Video head cleaner, I think, well, we're elder millennials. I'm sorry, but like for VCRs.
Oh,
right?
Stop it.
Yes.
Okay.
VCRs.
Okay.
I don't know if people remember those, but yeah, they're sold as video head cleaners. It will never say poppers, and it will never say inhale this for 2 seconds.
Okay. So I go into a sex store. The way that they have these shelves in pictures, I thought it was like a gas station. I could just pop into, but no.
You could, depending on the gas station.
Okay.
I've been in some gas stations that sell them. Yeah.
Okay. And so I just have to know what they look like in a bottle.
Yeah, little bottle. It will usually say do not inhale, but it's alkyl nitrite. And what you should do, you should ask if you have trouble locating them. They're probably behind the counter.
Interesting.
Usually in a fridge or a freezer.
Oh, okay.
You just ask for, hey, where's your video head cleaner?
Wow.
Yes.
I love this.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because if you say, where are your poppers, that puts them at liability, right? So, yeah.
Okay. And they're cold stored. They're not just on a shelf?
Yes,
or is that
I think
typical?
that's more, I don't even know if that's true. I'm not a chemist. But I have heard and been told that you should store them like in a fridge to help preserve them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I get them. What size? Is it like a Mentos container? Is it matchbook? What size are we talking?
5-hour energy shot.
Whoa!
Yes.
So teeny tiny.
Teeny tiny.
Okay.
Not to be drank, of course. You don't ingest them.
Well, that's like the question
like
too.
The energy shot. Yeah. Well, do you want to go into how to use them now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, so they're about the size of a 5-hour energy shot bottle.
Okay.
They usually have some words on them like rush, or there's like lightning bolts. They're coded in certain ways to let you know what they are, right?
Like between each other, like the differences in poppers, or
I don't think there's much variation between what poppers are.
Okay.
But definitely little bottles, and you are not supposed to do this.
Okay.
Because you're not supposed to inhale them. However, when they are used recreationally, you just open the bottle and inhale from your nose for like 1 to 2 seconds. Okay. And that's it. And then for some people, because every person's body is different, some people can experience slight euphoria, increased libido, flushing of the skin. But, historically people have used them to loosen smooth muscles. Okay. So, I'm sure we're going to talk about community use and myths in just a moment, but yeah, that's how they're used. I will say, as a public health person and a sex educator, I would not combine popper use if someone chooses to use them recreationally. I would not combine that with erectile dysfunction drugs, because it lowers your blood pressure. That can really affect your health in a bad way. So don't mix those two, because erectile drugs they're becoming more prominent recreationally. It's not just senior men who need the little blue pill. We've expanded now. So,
Okay, so I open it, I inhale it for 1 to 2 seconds.
Yes.
I feel euphoria.
Yeah.
I have vasodilatation. So it's
Sure.
not for every...
Your butthole opens, yes.
Yeah. These are the questions.
Exactly.
Okay. And is that the primary use? So I didn't realize these have been around since like the 70s. The way people talk about it, it sounds like they're new.
Yeah, well, and based on the little bit of research I've done and just what I know, like, I think they were starting to use them recreationally in the 60s and 70s.
Oh, okay.
Like in the club scene, you know, the party scene. But I think alkyl nitrite was actually, it came to be in like the mid 1800s.
Oh, we're right.
Yeah.
That's right. Huh.
So I don't know what they were doing with it, but they probably didn't write that down.
Okay. So, recreationally, since the middle of...
Party drug, yeah.
Okay. Primarily amongst gay folks or...
So, based on what I know... or have looked at, it was actually straight people who started using them in the club scene.
Okay.
But then, it kind of became a thing and like among gay and bisexual queer men, the queer community, for a variety of reasons. But primarily for sex.
Okay.
Sex enhancement.
Yeah. Because it would do the same thing as the little blue pill. Or would it not?
No. So poppers do not give people erections.
Yeah.
Poppers loosen smooth muscles.
You said that, okay.
So, it would make bottoming easier. It would make receptive sex easier. But also for vaginal sex. Not just anal sex. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am doing this in the club, and then I am going to have sex ASAP, or I am...
Perhaps.
I don't know, or I'm taking it and then
person.
I'm going home with somebody.
Look, however people use their poppers is different.
Okay. How long does the effects last?
Great question. Effects last 30 seconds to like 2 minutes.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very quick.
Huh.
It's very quick. Yeah.
Okay, so I have to know what I'm doing. I open the container. And it's happening.
And you sniff.
Yeah.
For 2 seconds. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
But again, not everyone gets that, quote, euphoric feeling that everyone gets because every person's body is different. Okay. I mean, some people just get a headache, right?
Okay.
And they don't understand what they just experienced.
Interesting.
Your face will get hot. Your head will start pounding. Just because it's a recreational drug doesn't mean it's pleasurable or feasible for everyone, right? So, yeah.
Okay. So, tell me about community use.
Yeah, so it is, I mean, I think it's definitely, I've noticed it become more prominent in queer culture, or maybe it's just coming back. Poppers are coming back.
Okay.
Because, I think it's being popularized more among Gen Z now. Troye Sivan has that song Rush, right? So like 2 years ago, every Pride party you went to, they're like, singing that song, but that's about poppers.
Okay.
And then, I think it's just becoming more culturally relevant. But I think poppers went out there for a little bit.
Okay.
But mainly in the 70s, 80s, it was a club drug. It was really, but whenever the AIDS crisis started, poppers was what was being blamed for AIDS-related complications that they didn't know at the time. So they were really trying to find ways to just vilify a group of people who were just trying to have fun.
Right. So the correlation at that time with zero understanding.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it seems like the general population and science has evolved from that, but RFK seems to have not.
Oh, God. RFK. I guess we have to talk about it, don't we? I don't know what the hell he's doing. He is an AIDS denialist. I cannot respectfully, with any kind of
compassion or empathy,
say like he should be Secretary of Health and Human Services of the United States.
Right.
But AIDS denialism started way back then. It killed a lot of people. It's still killing people. Stigma kills people. And apparently germ theory is not true. Because people just sniff poppers and then they get AIDS.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, which is not true, obviously. So yeah, because we know that HIV, a virus, causes AIDS if it's left untreated, right? So RFK vilifying a community because they say they use poppers, which of course not every queer person uses poppers, not every queer, you know? This could be a whole episode, but...
Science has moved on.
Science has moved on.
RFK has not moved on.
RFK has not. Not everyone moves on after science has been established. People insist that they are right despite evidence.
That's a nice way to put it, because I've been looking for a word to describe him other than just like not smart.
Yeah, dumbass. We can say it.
I think that works.
Yeah.
That works. So, speaking of AIDS denialism,
yes,
Peter
Duesberg, yes,
is at Berkeley, which we already talked about, actually, you and I and Rayanne for Soda Tech stuff.
Yes.
But
we love Berkeley.
It's so great there. Prominent AIDS denialist. And many websites still list him as professor at. The specific website looks like Professor Emeritus. And it is wild to me that UC Berkeley, known for its progressive and scholastically advanced research, just was fine having an AIDS denialist on staff.
Look, I do not understand that at all. And unfortunately, sometimes people are given big platforms that they should not have.
What do you think about doing a deep dive with me into Dr. Peter Duesberg?
Oh, I'd be down. I need to Google him more. I want to know all of his research, and we can totally do a deep dive.
Okay, we're going to do a deep dive into Peter.
Let's do it.
Let's ask people at Berkeley. Like, there's got to be, I don't know, like, how did this happen? How does this happen in academia? I feel like, again, this is somewhat of the, like, giving power away. Just like, this is a safe place for this guy to be.
Well, I guess there is that pesky thing called the First Amendment, and another pesky thing. Is that open
to, like, interpretation of science?
Well, apparently.
Yeah.
I mean, institutions have to be viewpoint neutral legally.
Oh.
Right? And so, yeah.
Huh.
I will say, like, I mean, there's also academic freedom. So he's probably tenured. You know, they can do whatever they want. It doesn't matter at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. He'll be coming up.
Yes, he will.
Okay. Back to poppers real quick. Question. How many can I take in a night? Is it like one and done, or do I keep taking them if I want to keep doing things?
Yeah, so again, I think that depends on the individual. It's like, you know, you're passing around a joint of weed, and some people just want one hit. Some people want to smoke a whole joint, you know? So I think it depends on the individual and how it's affecting them. But generally, I mean, typically, it's not very frequently. It's like one or two hits and you're done. And maybe during sexual activity, it's more. Maybe it's less. But, yeah.
Okay, here I was just making an assumption. Party drugs being at parties. My assumption and association is entirely with sex.
Oh, yeah, no. No, well, because straight people were using them at clubs.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. And it wasn't for sex. That's
exactly.
When you said that.
As far as I know.
Well, we don't know.
In the club, I don't know what they're doing, but yeah.
So you could just be at a party and they're using it without the intention.
Everyone who wants poppers. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, because the information I get is 100% like pre-sex use.
Yeah.
Huh. So I'm wrong. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's helpful. Truly. So the association with sex, if we're gonna get very adult here.
Yes, please.
When does it happen? When would I take it during sex? We've like prepped for sex, and I like lean over and inhale this, and a phallus, a penis, a toy is inserted immediately?
Sure, yeah. So again, I think it just depends what your goals are.
Yeah.
Like if you wanna, like some people use it to increase their horniness before sex. Like just because someone, like not only bottoms use it, right? Like tops can use it just to have like a euphoric feeling. But logistically, physically, bottoms typically use it for loosening, or it does, one way it works is by loosening smooth muscle. So yeah, it can help with receptive sex.
Okay, receptive, that's a great word.
Yeah, receptive
okay, right.
sex, yeah.
Okay, and I'm doing that like right beforehand, right before I'm receiving.
Yeah, or during.
Or during.
Just, whenever you need a little.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fascinating.
Yeah. But it depends. Again, it just depends what people want.
Right.
Yeah. And of course, like with any recreational drug, there are risks and potential benefits, right, to the user. Or else, if if it wasn't pleasurable, it wouldn't be a thing. But maybe we should have started out this way. But we need to start centering conversations not around how stupid they might sound to other people, but root everything in harm reduction. People do certain things.
Yeah.
And let's talk about it. Let's bring it out of the dark. Let's teach people how to do things that might cause harm safely or safer.
Right.
More safely. And educate people about those things. But poppers is one of those things where I feel like it's been vilified a lot, I think, because of its association with the queer community. And so I don't think it's talked openly in the general public.
Not at all, which is why I'm asking you 20,000 questions.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
But queer people who use them, particularly queer cis men and trans people, right, is who it's mainly been associated with, poppers.
Okay.
I mean, pleasure is just stigmatized. I mean, queer identities are stigmatized and they're seen as sexual perverts and deviants. And, even today. So, let's talk about it. Let's teach people how to be safer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it seems like everybody could enjoy a popper's moment.
Hello.
Not just
everyone
queer
has an anus. Let's be real. Come on.
And everybody could receive, or most people could receive, in the anus.
Period.
Okay. It's fascinating. So, have you heard that folks are trying to get rid of or ban poppers and restrict usage?
So I know a few years ago the FDA put out a statement that was explicitly saying do not use alkyl nitrite.
Do you mind if we share a table with you?
Sure.
We don't mind.
No,
We're having a very adult conversation, but feel free.
It's literally okay, but but you just might hear us talk about some things.
It might bother us, but it might bother her.
Oh, right. He's teaching me adult-themed things. That was wild.
That was,
Unfortunate. Okay.
Oh, well.
Oh, well. Oh, gosh. What were we saying? Oh, FDA banning.
Yes. So the FDA released a statement not promoting the use of poppers, or again, alkyl nitrites is what they called it. Basically saying there's no safe amount of ingestion. Sure, we know that it's a recreational drug, it's a chemical, obviously. And also, I think it's come back into the ethos because RFK is a proponent of, again, AIDS denialism, conspiracy theorists, or theories, saying that poppers, again, cause AIDS. And so I think that's where that's why poppers have come up more.
Yeah. For sure. Okay. I will say into the microphone, if our voices change at this moment, it's because we have been joined at a table and perhaps are holding the microphone closer to ourselves and speaking softer.
Yes.
Yes, we're fine. Let's see. I have seen more on social media and other places just openly talking about fisting, where I feel, again, it was associated with deviance or more BDSM.
Sure.
Break it down for me. I had a lovely...
Break fisting down.
Fisting down for me. I have seen questions about capital HOW, how.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
How?
Right.
Yeah,
I've seen, vaginas, babies' heads come out of vaginas. I can see how that would, supposedly expand for such things. I don't see a baby's head being able to come out of a anus or my fist.
Sure.
So...
Yeah.
How does this happen?
Yeah, well, again, it's not for everyone. You know, there's a thing in sex education where we're like, don't yuck people's yums.
Sure.
It's not for
true.
everyone.
Right.
Not everyone does the same activities or enjoys the same activities, even in the same way, right? So, fisting. I think there's a lot of preparation and research that needs to be done beforehand.
Okay.
Because we want to be safe, make sure people know what they're getting into. But lots of considerations need to be considered. Sorry. First, I think obviously with consent, up to the receiver to call all the shots, go slow. I think people, it's not like you just plop a fist in, right?
What is it like? So I'm familiar.
Oh, you're asking what it is?
Well, you get to a fist. You start with one finger, two, three.
And then eventually, and it depends on comfort. Maybe some people won't always get to the whole fist. But it is a way that people explore their bodies, and it is a way that people experience pleasure. So obviously things like douching beforehand and making sure that you use lots and lots of lube. I always say you can never use too much lube if lube is involved, but also make sure that it's thicker more than thin. You don't want thin lube. I at least recommend something like a silicone-based lube if that's all you have, because it lasts longer. But there are lubes there's one specifically called Boy Butter that's kind of like a Crisco, right? It lasts longer. You can also use oil-based lube for fisting if there are no latex products involved. If you're wearing latex gloves, obviously oil-based lubrication can destroy the latex. So it just really depends what you're doing. But lube, douching, if that's what works for you. Going slow, communicating. As a sex educator, communication is number one. I would think that fisting would be reserved for someone you already have a good communicative relationship with, right? Maybe, but it just depends on your comfort level, because it is really intimate. It takes time and a little bit of effort. So
I think the time was where I was at too.
Yes.
That makes a lot more sense.
Totally.
It's not just I jumped in a bathroom with somebody.
He fisted. No.
Right. No. Okay. That makes a lot. Okay. Thank you. And wear gloves and protection. Yep.
Exactly. I generally recommend nitrile gloves in case someone has a latex allergy. It just depends. Everyone has to make choices about risks that they're willing to take. STIs and HIV cannot be transmitted by fisting. That goes without saying, unless you've fingered someone or fisted someone else before then, or you have cuts on your hand or hangnails or anything that exposes your bloodstream.
Sure.
So, but in general, you're not going to transmit fluid by fisting, right? So, everyone has. Have you heard of people having edges when it comes to? I think in sex education, sexuality studies, everyone learns things that they need to talk about that maybe they themselves are not comfortable talking about. And so, we're always stretching our edges when we do sex education, right? And in terms of fisting, I remember when I was doing HIV work, HIV prevention work full time, one thing that we learned about in this class that I went to was a term called pinking.
Okay.
I'm saying this stretched my edges a little bit because I didn't fully understand. I was I was in my early 20s and but it was if you have a glove on and you're fisting someone, you pull it out, there's going to be some blood on it sometimes, and that's called pinking. So if there's pinking, you really need to be more careful, maybe stop depending, because that could indicate damage. So anyway, I hope that all that made sense. Because I never heard that.
Yeah.
So.
Time, I'm thinking that you answered, but I thought of something. Oh, nutritional requirements for anal sex, for bottoming.
Mm-hmm.
What's the nutritional protocol?
Well, you could tell me more about that, but I would say, in general, high fiber. Right, high fiber.
Beforehand,
let's clean up, right?
For like a day, 2 days. So what happens for me is that they start having anal sex on a movie or a show, and I'm like, this seems spontaneous. It doesn't like.
Oh,
what?
sure.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's entertainment.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's my question.
Yeah.
Like, can't that even happen?
Yeah.
All right.
It can.
I mean,
it just
it's
depends.
choice.
It depends what people are okay with, right? Mm-hmm. Some people are totally fine not douching beforehand, or some, but
I don't know.
not everyone.
Okay.
Yeah, so generally, high fiber diet.
For like a day before or like a meal before?
I would say at least a day.
Okay.
Right?
Don't look at me.
You're the nutritionist.
Well, yeah, I know how long it takes things to pass through, which,
sure.
a good day.
Mm-hmm.
But,
yeah.
yeah.
But also that's where douching comes in.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So diet aside, high fiber diet, hopefully you'll pass stool more easily.
Yeah.
It won't be so clingy.
Love it.
Yep, here
Yep.
we are. Here we are. But with douching, look, there's actually, if you want to talk about straight up HIV risk when bottoming, actually douching is not recommended before sex because it can cause tears in the rectal lining, right? The anal tissue. And so that can leave your body more vulnerable to infection. But also, people douche, right? Because they don't want to mess. In general, we say, as in sex educators, we say, take a shower, lay down a towel. Okay. Communicate. And yeah, if you want to douche, don't use one of those giant shower nozzle attachment things that totally goes into your large intestine, Okay. Yeah, well, we could do a whole episode about douching too. But in general, people think that they need some heavy duty tool or attachment. But that's not actually true. You just need one of those little fleet enema bulbs. And, high fiber diet and rinse. You can do it as many times until the water runs clear. Okay. And every person's body is different. And it really just depends. And so when we talk about anal sex and sex education, I feel like many people have these assumptions that they have to aggressively douche. There cannot be any feces anywhere near their colon. Okay. And it's it's your colon. That's okay.
That's helpful.
Yeah. So coming into contact with feces has to be a risk you're willing to take. Okay. Right? Especially if it's going to be spontaneous. So also, I know our mouths are close to the mic. We're actually being very quiet. To be clear.
The people sitting next to us just left.
Yes. But yes, that's what I would say.
All right. So feces is normal.
It is normal, and some people are okay with little amounts, maybe more amounts. I don't know. It all depends on the person, but it is normal. You should expect some. Yeah. It's just, again, it's a stigma thing. It just depends what people are comfortable with. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
But hello. Sometimes there's going to be a bear in the cave. Come on.
That's my assumption. I didn't know what was the expectation for. Right. I don't know. Okay. What are some questions you typically get as a sex educator about sex?
Oh my God. Most questions I feel that I have gotten can be solved by saying, talk to your partner. Okay. So it really depends. If we're talking about the physicalities and the mechanics of sexual activity, that's different. But in general, it still starts with communicate with your partner. And so, especially as someone who has worked with college students and the general community, mainly the queer community, I think there's just a lot of nervousness and uncertainty and stigma around just communication in general. Like, people are afraid to talk about what they like, even what they... Actually, I feel like people will talk about what they don't like. They're afraid to say, at least in what I've seen, about what they do like.
Yeah.
And so they end up not getting what they need or want to feel fulfilled from sexual activity. But generally, it's like, you know, I do get a lot of questions about anal sex because it needs to be demystified, destigmatized. Everyone, or I don't want to say everyone, but it's in our culture that it's mainly a queer cis man thing. And like, that's not true. Do you know how many gay men I know who like want nothing to do with anal sex? Have you heard of sides?
No.
Oh my god, I get to teach you about sides.
Yeah.
So you know how like on dating apps or whatever, people are like, I'm a top or I'm a bottom.
Yes.
Well, now what's coming into the culture more is admitting or saying that you're a side, which means you do everything but.
Oh, but?
Everything but. I hate you for that. And I love you for that.
You're going to use it.
Yes. Everything
you are.
but. That's literally what it is.
Yeah.
So, you know, and that just goes to say, like, not everything is for everyone. Let people do what they want to do with their own bodies. So, yeah, there's that. So, lots of questions about anal, lots of questions about communication. Actually, quite a bit of questions I can think of about, like, polyamory.
Yeah.
How do I manage this when this other thing is happening, or this partner likes this? And so it's just communicate your boundaries and what your goals are and all that. But people don't always feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah. What do you associate the like shame of pleasure and the lack of wanting to explore pleasure to in society?
Well, I mean, it comes from, oh God, I could do a dissertation on this, but I think it's the influence of religion in our country. It's the puritanical values that have been with us since the foundation of this country. Ever since the U.S. was colonized. These have been ingrained in our values.
Yeah.
So yeah, I truly do think it's religion.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Another question.
Yes.
How should we be cleaning our sex toys?
Oh my God. Well, it depends on the toy.
Okay.
It depends on the toy. It depends on the material.
Okay.
But if it is an insertive toy, like a dildo, right?
Okay.
Then first I'll say, in general, toys should say if they're dishwasher safe.
Oh, there
not.
are some that are dishwasher. Okay,
Yes,
keep going.
Yes. Now, if you have a roommate, you might want to ask first, or maybe don't do it that way. But you can run toys through the dishwasher, depending. You can boil them.
Yeah.
Really, anything that is non-porous, like glass.
Oh, yeah.
Would be ideal for cleaning. There are lots of really awesome websites that teach people extensively how to clean their toys. And here are some websites that I recommend, that I trust, that I've used over the years. One is kinkly.com.
Okay.
Kinkly.com, it goes in depth into sexual health education and sex education in general about kinks, BDSM, but deep into safer sex. So kinkly.com, and then goodinbed.com.
Okay.
I think it still exists, but it's basically, it's a forum of sex educators, like professional sex educators, researchers that answer sex questions and write advice columns.
Oh.
Another is thebody.com. They have a really awesome forum, one that is reviewed by medical providers who get on there and respond to questions.
Oh, fun.
And another one is Go Ask Alice.
Yeah.
Go Ask Alice. Yes, it's like that is absolutely one of my favorite websites for sex questions.
Okay.
And it's run by Columbia University, their health promotion staff, but all kinds of questions from college students about sex and toy cleaning and things like that. So I would say in general, to get back to your OG question, figure out what the material is, what tools that you have to clean it, what it's been used for.
Right.
And then there are certain guidelines depending on all those three things.
Okay.
For how to best clean. But
Got it.
I will say one fun tip is don't store, like if you have a silicone dildo, one, don't ever use silicone lube with silicone dildos, because silicone, like silicone, it will turn into this gummy mess.
Yikes. Okay.
So yeah, it'll like erode itself, right?
Yeah.
So don't do that.
Don't do that.
Also, if you store 2 silicone dildos together, the toys will grow together.
What?
So
okay.
Unless you want to create this amazing, this like, you know, don't store them together. Store them maybe in socks in a drawer.
Okay.
Yeah, put them in socks first, so they don't touch each other.
Fascinating.
Yeah, that's what I'll say.
Okay. Someone else had or wanted us to talk about asexuality.
Yes.
Yes. So less perhaps sex and more sexuality.
Yeah.
What do you want to say about it?
I'm so glad that different sexual orientations and romantic orientations are becoming more prominent. The awareness of them in our culture and society right now. I think asexuality is one of those that are still stigmatized and not as understood, but they're out here, asexual, aromantic people. You know, not everyone experiences sexual attraction. Asexuality, because this is another common question that I've gotten over the years, is like, what does asexuality mean? What does it mean to be an asexual? And it's a continuum of experiences and states of being. It doesn't mean that someone is not sexually active. It doesn't mean that someone does not experience sexual attraction. There are various identities within the asexuality or ace spectrum. Like there's gray sexual, right? So maybe they experience sexuality sometimes. There's demisexual. So demisexuality is someone needs to experience emotional attraction before they experience sexual attraction. So yeah, it's a spectrum of experiences under an ace umbrella.
Okay.
But yeah, it doesn't mean I don't have sex. It could for some people. But in general, it just means may or may not experience varying levels of sexual attraction or romantic attraction. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's helpful.
Yeah. You know, as someone who's done a lot of like presentations and whatnot on sexual orientation and gender identity, like one very common question is, oh wait, I lost my train of thought. Sorry. I've had 2 beers. Hold on.
Leave that in.
Pause.
Jen. Nope. Leave in the beverage.
Leave in the beer part. Oh! Making sure that we're being inclusive when we talk about sex of ace people is like, you know, just saying if you experience sexual attraction, if you are sexually active, if, you know, so like leaving that door open to validate their experiences. So yeah.
That's helpful. So the umbrella is much larger than I ever expected for asexuality.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, asexuality is its own spectrum, for sure, at varying levels.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Columbia and Go Ask Alice.
Yes.
Would you like to share what is happening to sex education right now?
Oh my God. I think sexual health, sex education as a field, I mean, we're always going to keep doing what we're doing. I think one of our responsibilities as public health professionals is to always speak truth to power, make sure that people are getting evidence-based information regardless of what's going on in the world. But I've definitely noticed there's just a culture of fear right now. A lot of grants are getting defunded. A lot of people are losing their jobs in the HIV, sexual health, queer health field right now. And yeah, I just hope that people remember, and I have to keep going back to this, is like silence equals death. It really is that serious for me. Like, if you're not familiar with silence equals death, it is a slogan that really started in the AIDS activist community when there were no treatments, and you know, the queer community, the communities most affected by HIV were having to fight for their own resources and education and funding and treatment. Yeah, so if people aren't speaking up, people die.
Yeah.
And that might come off as extreme, but I mean, that's true at the end of the day. So I just really hope that people keep speaking out and engage in activism in ways that feel good to them. And I also hope that people step outside of their boundaries a little bit to be maybe bolder than they're used to being. So yeah, that's what I'll say. But it's a scary time right now.
You said one of your colleagues had to change their language.
Yes. One of my colleagues who works at a university recently was told by administrators that they could no longer say during condom demonstrations, external condom demonstrations, that they cannot say person with a penis. They have to say men. And then it's like, not all men have penises. Trans and non-binary people exist. So come on, let's get real, y'all. Like, I think higher education and other institutions, they're losing sight of the forest for the trees. And I think a lot of people are being preemptively compliant with some things that they think might be coming down the line. And I was listening to a podcast recently that was in New York Times Opinions, and it's from April 10th, and it's called They're Coming After All of Us, So You Might As Well Tell the Truth. And Lydia Polgreen interviewed Sarah Schulman, who was part of ACT UP, the AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power and AIDS activism. And she basically says, like, it doesn't matter if you're silent or loud, because the system, they're coming for everyone. So speak out, because it doesn't matter if you're afraid or not. So you might as well be bold and speak truth. So that was really inspiring.
Yeah, with that example that you gave there and others, I'm just thinking about the people who are giving their power away. Complying before they're even asked. And so in the end, it'll be like, what happened? What caused us to have zero information or zero access for information? Or what happened to all the DEI? It'll be like, we just decided not to do it anymore. It's not that we did it before anybody asked us. We gave that power away. We gave up everything that we had fought so hard for, which is what is required in, fascism and oligarchy. It's just deciding, well, we're going to take the easy way out.
I mean, exactly in line with that. Right now we're seeing it. I've not seen this in my lifetime. I'm 39. But what I've not seen is, right now in the field of sexual health, public health, money talks. I'm seeing the impact of what people are willing to do when they don't have a job anymore, when their livelihoods are threatened.
Right.
So all these grants that are getting canceled and all these, all this research, all this funding for education and HIV and sexual health initiatives, like these activists that spend their lives funded by these nonprofit organizations and even at higher education institutions, etc., they're having to grapple with, how can I speak out but still keep my job? And the administration knows that. And so, we're being fucked with in ways that I haven't had to experience. And so you really see how brave people are when their jobs are threatened.
Is it safe to say that you have gotten national attention for the work that you're doing?
I have definitely been put on some platforms that scare me to be on.
Okay.
Because of the work that I do.
Yeah.
And, but I'm still here. So I'm going to keep doing what I do.
Yeah. You're not going to give that away.
No, I'm not going to give that away, because my community's history, my work, I can't give in and sleep at night.
Yeah.
I can't be okay with myself. We all have choices that we have to make.
Yeah.
And we're going to understand more, I think, as the years move on and time moves, the sacrifices that we're going to have to make for doing things that align with our values.
The right thing?
Well,
the sacrifices that we'll have to make for doing the right thing.
Exactly. So, we can't cower, I guess.
Or I guess the sacrifices people will have made for not doing the right thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
The outcomes when people did not stand up or say anything.
But I remember on January 20th, federal workers were posting on LinkedIn saying, like, oh, they think they're going to stop me from doing what I'm going to do?
Wow.
No, I'm going to hold the line from the inside. They're not going to restrict what I'm doing based on evidence and science and what I know is good for people and their health. So this statement of hold the line has really invigorated me.
Okay.
So everyone has to assess their risks and figure out what they're willing to do to hold the line. But hold the line. That is very powerful. We all have to hold the line.
Thank you.
Yes.
So much.
Thank you.
I'm so grateful. You and your energy and your passion is something that I continue to call on.
Likewise.
I will say, like, what would Blake do? Or I'm thinking about you. Something
Oh my God.
happened at work, and I was like, where's Blake right now?
Yes, and I'm like, what would Jessica do? I channel you. Oh no, that's awesome.
Yes,
Well,
I
thank
definitely look for, like, my work spouse in the moment.
Yes.
I'm like, where is Blake right now?
I know.
I need him. I need him here.
Oh, we kicked so much ass together.
I know, we sure did. Thank you for coming on.
Yes, thanks for having me.
And here's my follow-up question to Blake about butt stuff and then fascism. Folks will hear why it's important to do more than getting the Google AI review or looking at a single research study to determine the answer to a question, especially about bodies.
Hey, Jessica, thanks for reaching back out with your question. So in terms of whether or not butt stuff can cause incontinence and prolapse, there's actually been a lot of, well, I wouldn't say a lot of research, but there have been several research studies that have come out in the past few decades, but none of them are so specific or study the cause and effect relationship of receptive anal sex or fisting on the elasticity of the anus or incontinence. So studies have been done on all of those things, but not really at the same time. And there are no super clear answers, but the headlines certainly get sensationalized when they get published. So I looked at medical professionals' opinions. I was on Planned Parenthood's website, and as best as I can tell, and because I wanted to make sure everything was still in line with what I've been told and learned, is that in general, like, your butthole's going to be fine. Like, you know, of course, there over long-term use, like a lifetime use, there might be an increased risk of like anal leakage. But again, the studies that have determined that haven't studied how big is the thing that's going into your rectum? How long was it used? Did you use lubrication? How long was the session? And these things all matter. But again, I think in general, it's know your body. Don't push past pain. If you have questions, talk to your medical provider so that they can help guide you. But yeah, I'm going to say the verdict is it's okay. You're going to be fine. Just use basic standards of care and listen to your body and communicate. So that's what I'll say about that. The other thing that we had discussed but did not come up in our conversation is, why do people have sex with fascists? I don't know. If you are listening to this and you're out there fucking a fascist or more than one fascist, stop. Stop giving them power. We don't condone fucking fascists. So stop. It doesn't make sense.
And that's the episode. Thanks so much to Blake for coming on the show. I'm so glad that I can bring him to this audience. At my former job, he was my ride or die as we pushed for health equity. This has been Making It Awkward. I'm Jessica Wilson. The show is edited and mixed by Jen Jacobs, who is always open to exploring her edges. It's supported by the Legacy of Sacramento Outboard Services. Oh, and if you like this episode, you can rate it, you can review it, you can give it 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. You can write a review there, and I'll bring my dad back to the show in order to read those reviews. You can put a comment on Spotify or YouTube. You can like the episode on Spotify. You can subscribe. You can follow. Oh, and you can join the Patreon. Signal Award entries are due on Friday, the day after this premieres. And hopefully I'll have my stuff together then. Until next time, friends, make it awkward.